magnum opus of maverick landscape architect James Rose, whose rebellious nature caused one writer to refer to him as the James Dean of landscape architecture. Here Rose created a unique work of art, fusing modern sculpture, architecture, and landscape into a single unified place for living.
It's pretty clear that this house looks very different than the rest of suburbia.
Yep.
And James Rose intended for it to be that way. He was a landscape architect by training, and oftentimes when he had clients come over, he would tell them to look for the house that looks like it isn't meant to be here. James Rose was born in 1913 in Matamoros, Pennsylvania. So he started taking classes at Cornell University.
Okay.
Cornell University. Without having graduated from high school, he took classes in agriculture and didn't want to just take the more technical courses, so he also took courses in architecture, poetry, music, theater, and architecture. And that's sort of where he found the beauty in the poetry of space. He was very influenced by the American Transcendentalists, and very specifically Thoreau, and that's where he got the idea of civil disobedience. So one example of civil disobedience that I like to point out is this fence structure.
Yeah.
New Jersey has a maximum fence height of 4 feet. And so to add more privacy, he built a 2-foot retaining wall and then built the 4-foot fence on top for 6 feet of privacy.
Okay. That's an interesting trick, but it's not trick. There's always kind of way to
Well, you gotta know
think
the
about
rules to know how to break them, right?
Yeah. You know, typically 3-foot 6 is kind of handrail height for safety, but I don't know, the fence. It's not a requirement, right? Because many, even my house, we don't have a fence, but some, some owner might always want to put the fence for their animal, but this is something unique.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
All right. Well, what's the symbol?
We'll look at it.
Okay. Interesting.
It's part of the River of Hospitality mural. So he didn't actually finish at Cornell, but he was able to get into Harvard Graduate School of Design. He was there in 1936 and only lasted 1 year before he got expelled. And the reason he got expelled was because he refused to design in the Beaux-Arts tradition. And for him, I think it was just a tone-deaf way to design for the way that people were living in the modern era. And that was the year before Gropius, who was the head of the Bauhaus, which is that school of modernism, came and became the Harvard GSD dean.
Yeah.
So after he got expelled, he enlisted in the Navy during World War II, and was tasked with burying Japanese soldiers' bodies, which was very traumatizing for him. And when he came back, it sort of further entrenched this mistrust in authorities and institutions. So he came back and sort of started developing models for the vision of his new home. He was later commissioned to write articles in the journal Progressive Architecture, which was originally known as pencil points, and those became really ubiquitous in the profession of architecture and landscape architecture. The properties that he was looking at, there were several properties he was looking at in New Jersey. They all fell through except for this one, which was an abandoned trolley stop. And it had been abandoned for several years because of its weird proportions. You can probably tell from the lot from the house. The lot size was very long and very narrow, and it was actually sort of trapezoidal. So a lot of people wouldn't be inclined to take on a property like this. He took it as a design opportunity. And we'll see a few of those design principles in action when we go inside.
Now at those years, he must be he like an outsider, liar, right?
In every sense of the word.
Yeah, because right.
Politico, which is the World Design Conference in 1960, and that's where he was really influenced by Japanese design principles and the culture in general. So this is the living space. These are original James Rose frames. They were actually originally nylon cord that were hand woven by his sister. And you know, through the years they've been worn out, and so they've been replaced with mahogany.
So he is designed by him?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
cool. Yeah, all architects usually they design even furniture.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So he, even though he didn't have an architecture background, he was heavily inspired by architecture, and very specifically Frank Lloyd Wright. So he got this design principle or design philosophy of blurring the lines between indoors and out. He would say that it's not architecture, it's not landscape, it's both. It's not indoors, it's not outdoors, it's both. So you'll see several examples of that blurring of the lines. More so here in this dining space. So this is the kitchen area, and this is the dining space. This is the River of Hospitality mural that I mentioned earlier, and the shape of the sign is this right here. Or or maybe it's that one. So the River of Hospitality is sort of a meditation on the idea of interconnectedness. It's a balance of positive and negative space, and you can't change one without fundamentally changing the other. The mural actually continues outside.
Wow, this is amazing.
On this wall, and from this vantage point, it's nice to see the river flow in and out, out and in. It's just a continuation of space. This is actually the mother's old living space. She stayed with him. His sister and mother stayed with him until the sister passed in the 60s. I hope I didn't say sister. The mother passed. Now it's an office, obviously. And this is where she used to change and where her bathroom was. This is known as the Buddha Garden.
Oh.
It's quite serene. Part of that blurring of the lines is sort of echoed in the hardscape. And there were actually two phases of the house. They moved in 1953, and the first phase was from that period until the late 60s. And the first phase was really, the design was very disciplined, very linear. There was a grid that he was following, and that the trees actually emphasized that grid as well. And in the second phase, from the 60s until he passed away in 1991, the footprint of the house changed drastically, and you can see sort of remnants of that in the change in direction of the material. The Buddha Garden actually did used to extend here, so you can see where it used to be.
Oh, okay.
And where it, where it got pushed back eventually.
Can I go inside and take a look?
Yeah, of course.
Wow. Oh. Wow, interesting.
And we'll go up there.
Okay.
And I just want to make our way through the sister's space.
Oh wow, look at
This is the
that.
sister's living space. He added that kitchenette a little bit later.
Oh, this
These
is the
were the
model.
models that he created.
So which year? Maybe 1960s?
Yes. So this one is the first phase,
Oh.
and you can see how disciplined it is. Very clean, straight lines. The trees emphasize that grid, and part of the reason he decided to expand was this flat roof that was leaking, and rather than just fixing the roof and keeping it as it is, he took it as an opportunity to expand by creating this pitched roof that would shed water off of the structure and also create this lovely treetop space that he could enjoy.
Oh, good idea. Hello.
This was actually one. This is